Welcome to the Ironman Insider, presented by Maurten. I'm your host, Matt Lieto, and we're just kind of dipping into the 2025 season and all that it has in store for us. But I'll tell you what, 2024 was pretty amazing. And for me, one of the highlights was undoubtedly the VinFast Ironman World Championship in Nice, and I want to talk about it. So who better to have on than our current 2024 Ironman World Champion, Philipp. How's it going?
Hey, Matt. Thanks so much for having me on the pod. I'm doing very well in the middle of a winter training block, I guess. I'm currently in Germany enjoying some colder temperatures, but overall it's good to start a new season.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think this might be the first time I get to call you Ironman World Champion, so I'm pretty excited about that. How does it feel? I haven't seen you since Nice. I imagine it's been kind of a whirlwind since then.
Yeah, so first of all, it sounds amazing if you call me Ironman World Champion. Sometimes I still have to sting myself, to remind myself that it actually happened and that it's true and that it's a title, that no one can take away from me again. And I'm still very proud. And the time after Nice has been busy in a very positive way with lots of new experiences, also besides swim, bike, run. So there have been some great opportunities for me to represent myself in the German TV and meet amazing people outside of the sport. So it has been really cool to see that this title actually means something and opens some doors. And it was a really cool experience, or still is. I tried to soak it all in. I also celebrated with around 120 people. So I made my own little world champion victory party after Nice, where I invited many people, who had the guts to support me and invest in me maybe 10 years ago, where, it wasn't on the horizon that I could maybe achieve something like this. And it was a real great get together from, my partners that I'm currently working with, but also some old friends and also old sponsors, just like I said, who invested in me in my beginnings and who actually paved the way that I was able to, jump on the adventure of becoming a pro athlete.
That's awesome, because it's a long journey, as you know, right? Like you, as someone at your level, wanting to win a world championship is always kind of that like North Star, and you want to do it, but it takes a long time to get there. And it seems like you've had a lot of great people behind you.
Absolutely. And it's just like you say, it's a long way and you never know if you one day will actually achieve it, especially, in my situation where I came into the sport pretty late. I never had the dream growing up to become an Ironman world champion because I had no contact with swim, bike, run. So, and I wasn't in any kind of a professional sports environment. So it was just also like a dream and desire that was built step by step. Like I entered the world of triathlon and I found a new passion, and then I also found a competitive side inside of me and the desire to get better, and then having the guts to step up, becoming a professional athlete without knowing if this will actually work out. And I think after stepping on the podium in Kona 2 years ago, I think this was definitely like one achievement for me, especially on the mental side, where I thought, okay, now I actually believe it myself that one day I could maybe also win it. And I think that was like a super important stepping stone in the development. And I think as an athlete, if you're not born into like maybe a family where, your parents tell you, or, you're born to become a world champion, it's super important to make those experiences, those lessons that also help you, to find the belief that you are able to achieve something like this.
Yeah, totally. And Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up from Kona 2 years ago, and that makes perfect sense. That you have to have these building blocks of satisfaction and like accomplishment to be able to then believe more. And that you had a 70.3 World Championship podium years ago, and then knocking on the door in Kona, obviously previously, but it was, I feel like you could see that in Kona when you were third. It didn't feel like you were like, I know you always want to win, but it didn't feel like you were like bummed that you didn't win or get second. You were like pumped that you got third, and you could kind of tell that there was this new confidence. And did you feel that like, I know you didn't start the next day training for the next year, but like immediately did you feel this new like self assuredness after that race?
Yeah, I think I did feel that something changed. I mean, I have accomplished some, big results before, especially also fast times.
Of course.
So I knew like I'm good at this distance. But then, for example, Kona is very, difficult with the conditions and also race dynamics. So for me, racing in Kona to my full potential is definitely a bit harder because I'm a tall athlete. Maybe it's not so easy for me to perform at high temperatures. But I think I definitely made some learnings also from my experiences of the years before. And then after stepping on that podium, that was kind of a, yeah, relief in a way because I knew that I performed well. I know there's still some potential left to perform even better on the island, but I think this really, in my case, needs experience. I need to, experience more, like to understand my body's performance under heat, for example, and also to develop my swim even further, to be closer to the front pack, which is super essential for a good race in Hawaii. So after kind of nailing a good race there, it definitely left me with the confidence. I think I can even become better here at this race, and this is obviously pretty exciting for this season. But looking back to last year, it was really exciting to prepare for a different course. So this was definitely also a takeaway from stepping on the World Championship podium in Kona, knowing that the following year, the task looks quite different to Kona. And, I have had done Kona 3 times, and I think it was really cool to prepare for a new challenge. So I was really looking forward to prepare for a different course for a world championship race. And obviously my love for Nice is even bigger now. But I think it was just refreshing in a way because, you've been to Kona for probably even more times than I have. And it's a beautiful place for a race, but you also get to know every stone while you're trained there. And there's not so much variation for your training before the race. And so in this case, I really enjoyed to have the different challenge. And obviously, Nice had a few things that played into my cards. We talked about the swim. I knew, with like the 2,400 meters of climbing, it would make it a little bit easier for me to, maybe play my bike strength and make up some more time on the bike to just jump off the bike in a better position to fight for the win. And as we know now, it played off exactly in this way. So Nice was definitely like a dream scenario for me. Like the course, I really loved the challenge with the climbing and the descending. This is just something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But then I'm also looking forward to go back to Kona, but we will probably touch on that later.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting. I have so many questions to ask, but I think like people think might think there's an ascension of an athlete that just keeps getting better and better and better, and the results get better. And if you're going to be a world champion, it's just kind of like this. But it's all these different journeys on the way that will help you actually achieve that dream. And and you totally correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like to me in witnessing, like I'm very lucky in our sport to be able to have this literal front seat view of these races. So like when you've had those performances, I've been able to be on a motorcycle and see you in that and see what your face looks like and like your expressions. And for me, the year you were fourth with a penalty to me was obviously a day that you, in that day, worst thing that could ever happen. But in the end, it felt like now you know, like, oh man, you forgot about it. You went forward. You still were fourth. You know that what you could have done that day if that didn't happen. And it felt like to me, the confidence you got out of that was part of that piece that allowed you then to get third, because I don't know what happened, if anything bad happened to you in that race you were third, but something bad always happens at a world championship, right? And so that you're like, nothing as bad as that is going to happen to me again if I just keep focusing. And it's like that piece leads to that third, then leads to Nice. And yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny that you come up with this scenario, because this has definitely been a very low point of my racing experience so far.
Yeah.
And you were actually with me in that penalty tent. I think you were there putting the camera on me. And
Sorry.
I remember you telling me, remember, Laura, the race is not over. There have been people, getting penalties and they were still able to run to victory. And it's funny because I remember, but I think I didn't reply it to you in the moment, but I was thinking about it like, I don't think he's right, because the times they changed. And I think, now with the level of racing we have, you can't afford to stand still for 5 minutes and then still run your way to victory. Or maybe you could, if you could pull off like a 2:40 marathon, which unfortunately I couldn't. But yeah, it was, looking back, I mean, obviously it was very frustrating, and I felt like, I didn't deserve the penalty. I didn't understand what I got it for. But looking back, it was also a great test of how much I love the sport, and, how I deal with situations like this. Because in that moment, knowing, this is not good, the group is gone, like you will probably not fight for the podium today. So all my like dream scenarios or my goals for the race, they kind of, were gone. And I still kept my head in the game. And obviously there were negative thoughts, but I was able, to push them aside and focus on the moment. And I think that was definitely a moment where I grew as a person, as an athlete, and of course also a lesson that I can definitely trust in my mind and body. I think especially in my mind in that situation, I'm sure that it did kind of cost me a little bit of my performance for the run, or also for the end of the bike, because, I had like this negative energy in me, and I had like these constant thoughts of why, what happened, and so on. And I think, that probably held me back from running better at the end. Or, when it gets tough, I think if you're not in a really good mind space, it just feels tougher. So it just adds up getting tougher in a way. But I remember, I think it took me more than half of a year until I was able to rewatch the race. And when I did, I was actually really proud afterwards, because it was crazy to see, how I was like moving through the rankings. I think I was in 30th position or something like this after the bike. And then just to see, how I was working through, even though, I didn't know what would be the best position I could fight for. And then actually seeing that I fought until the fourth place, which was pretty crazy looking back. So it's definitely something I'm proud of, and probably, as you said, also a lesson that made me stronger for the following year.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if you find yourself, as you've said, you play catch up already as it is coming out of the water with the swim, and you get all that, and then you're like, wait, I got to do all this again, and you can you can get your head around that. Then the next year you're like, oh, I only have to do this once. This is easier. It's like that forward progression, and yeah, all just a piece of um, the fabric work that allows a world champion to get there, and you have. And so yeah, Nice, that that race, very, as you said, Nice is an amazing spot, and it's hard to explain. I think people, obviously Kona has been the world championship, and that's something we all attach to. But Nice, if you haven't been there, it is such a special place, and that race venue is yeah, super unique. It's a very different vibe. And I think it allows athletes, you always seem to be very relaxed in general when I see you, at least. I'm sure there's times when you're not relaxed going into race week. But especially in Nice, you seem to like, and what's cool about Nice is you just feel like you're in Nice and there's a triathlon going on. Where when you're in Kona, you're like, it's Kona. And like you feel it, right? So like I mean I saw you walking down the street, I think, in Nice, and you tried to take a piece of my pizza, and you're like just having a good time. You're like, it seemed like you were more relaxed going in. Is that true? Did that help a little bit going into that race?
Yes, definitely. So I really enjoyed the time in Nice. Yeah, just as you said, like there is more to distract you from swim, bike, run, and that the biggest competition is coming closer. Where in Kona, everything is so like full of athletes that there is no place to hide or, to think of something else, which sometimes can help, just to calm the nerves down. And I was definitely very nervous because it's always very special if you emphasize a race like I did with Nice. Like my whole season was kind of a build up towards Nice, and I really wanted to be Nice be my A race, to be there in my peak shape. And yeah, I mean, there's always risk involved if if there's like this certain day and you want to peak there and you don't want to get sick. Obviously also pressure increases because there aren't many chances to show your best. And
Right.
those are still kind of new situations for me. Like I haven't raced many world championship races so far. So in every race and every build up is a kind of a new experience, and you get better in dealing with your nerves. And I think, just trying to be relaxed definitely helps me to be at my best on race day, and to surround yourself with people like from your team or family and friends that actually help you. In my case, sometimes distract you a bit from the pressure that I feel, so close to a race, is really cool. And obviously with Nice being in Europe, it was a lot easier for family, friends, also partners to come there in person and actually be there with me. That was, yeah, obviously as a European athlete, something very special and something I really enjoyed. Also that I was able to do the build up at a place that is very close to my heart in St. Moritz in Switzerland. So I was able to prepare at high altitude, where I felt like it's quite an advantage to do so, because most of the bike course is higher than or around 1,200 meters. So you are
Okay.
quite high. It's not like high altitude, but it's altitude. So I think, yeah, and it was just cool, to prepare at a place where I feel comfortable, and you don't have to do the big travel to Hawaii as a European athlete. And yeah, it was special to have more people there with me, and I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've always seemed to be someone who, has been fortunate enough or built your situation around you where you have people that are light and are uplifting you, and that happiness is a focus. And even on races, like when we can talk about it when we start talking about Nice, like when you felt comfortable in times, you allowed yourself to smile and to have fun. And I did a podcast earlier, or later at the end of last year with Dr. David Spindler, neuroscientist, who, structurally, happiness equals watts. It really does. And there is an improvement, right? And we think it's like, oh, if you're more relaxed and whatever, but you've seemed to tap into the fact and the reality that the more relaxed, the more happy you are, the more your brain is firing those feelings, you're actually going to perform better.
Yeah, for sure. And it's super interesting, the connection between the brain and the muscles and the performance is probably still underestimated. But yeah, this is also a topic I'm super into, and especially for knees. Knees brought up a new challenge with the cornering, the descending. And just before knees, I actually also started to work more closely with a neuro-athletic coach, where I felt like I have some slight difficulties on one side for the cornering or descending on the bike. And I didn't know why. And, we tried to find the root cause for what is kind of holding me back from, feeling smooth or going faster, because your brain will always tell you at a certain speed, now it's time to put on the brakes, right? Because but this is actually something you can extend, you can feel, or what you can train. I mean, there's a reason why maybe a pro cyclist descends faster than I can, but I can improve. And the brain is actually the part where you start to improve. And I did some exercises and I felt improvements. And the funny part was I started to work with him for, my bike performance, but then I saw improvements in my swim performance and in my run performance. So it was really cool, to also open a new door maybe for unlocking even some more potential or performance at the end. And I think that is especially something that is cool with the knees course, that it demands a few more skills than just putting down pure watts.
Yeah, it certainly does. And you also did put down some pure watts too. That was part of it. It's really cool seeing, we talk about, I had Craig Alexander on the podcast a few episodes ago, and we talked about how things have changed in the sport versus when he was there. And a lot of it is science and equipment. But I think one of the new biggest things is exactly what you're talking about. And these athletes that are working with neuroscientists, and I think people have talked about mindset and using positive thinking and all that, but neuroscience is a very different thing. And the ability to unlock potential in that is huge. And it's a tool that you want to get on it before the rest of your competitors. And there's a reason you're searching for everything. It's because the level of racing and the women that you're racing against is so high right now.
Yes, 100%. I think, we're always trying to find new ways to make improvements. I mean, I have not been in the sport for 20 years as some of my competitors. So I'm just coming close to 10. So I think there's probably still some, lower hanging fruits here and there. But then also with my coach and husband, Philipp, we are very passionate about being open for new, ideas. And
Very cool.
I think this is definitely something why we were able to improve in also shorter amount of times, because, we are not thinking that there's only this one method that will bring us to success, but we are very aware that, especially with my unique way of coming into the sport very late, we maybe need to do a few things different. And I just think it's a super interesting journey to be on. And I think if you're open-minded and don't fear, to try out new things and maybe fail here and there, or just make learnings, you can have a really good time and also be able to perform and develop even at a later stage of your age, even at a later, even if you're already older athlete.
Yeah, you still got time though. You're still pretty young.
Well, if you look at my sport age, let's call it like this, I'm actually still pretty young. Like, you know, the time I've been in the sport. So there's still like a lot of stimulus, like my body reacts very well to. For example, you know, I feel like I have not touched like the volume box till now. So, and I think that is something, especially on the Ironman side, where people use it a lot, you know, to get fit. They train a huge amount of volume. And I feel like this is something I have not really done for a lot, like, so there's still some things to try and to see how my body reacts on that. And that is exciting and really fun.
No, that's great. And, you know, talking about what we were talking about earlier and the kind of the happiness and who you've surrounded yourself by, that does also have an effect on your racing age, right? Like if you're having fun the whole time, you continue to want to do it, right? Where if you're pushing yourself and you've tapped into that volume stage and that's what you've been doing over and over again and you're tired and you're doing it and you're not maybe having as much fun doing it, you're going to theoretically age or fatigue out mentally a lot earlier than someone like you. Like when I look at you, I feel like you've got another decade of racing in you.
Thank you.
We'll see. I mean,
well, yeah, that is so true. And, you know, Philipp and I, we're having our age group coaching company, Kick-Ass Sports. And there we also talk with many amateur athletes exactly about this point, because it's so easy to burn yourself down with triathlon training. You know, there's 3 sports you can train for, and then there's even some gym you can do. So it's so easy, you know, to get kind of trapped in training hundreds of hours and really tiring your body and your mind and losing the joy for the sport. And, you know, there are luckily different ways many different ways to get to reaching your goals or to success. And I mean, I often get asked, you know, how I motivate myself for sessions or how I motivate myself during a race when it gets tough. And I think it's interesting because, of course, I also have to motivate me, but it's maybe just 1% from where 99% of the days I am motivated because I do something that I really like. And sometimes I feel like people, maybe they do triathlon, for example, or just any sport for the wrong reasons. Maybe it's not even like the sport they should do, you know, or they are following an approach that is maybe not, you know, fitting into their normal life. So if they already have kids and a demanding job and a household and so on, you know, it's maybe not the smartest idea to then trying to train more than 20 hours a week on top.
Sure.
So in this case, you need like an approach, like a minimal effective training dose approach. Mm-hmm. And then you have, because you can only train as much as you can recover. And this is something that I try to emphasize, you know, especially when you get older, because it's not always the same response. Your body doesn't give the same response to the same training stimulus every year.
No, but it will continue to get fatigued at the same level if you keep giving it the same stimulus.
Exactly. Right? And things maybe start to not be that much fun because you're not having variation. For example, we decided to do my build-up for the season different this year, which is exciting. In one way, I feel like, oh no, why are we doing this? Because last year it worked very well, so why don't we do it exactly like this again? But then, you know, if you're always doing the same stuff, you can't expect a different outcome. Sure. So this year, for example, I have already done one training camp at St. Moritz, where at the moment it's sometimes minus 25 degrees, so it's freezing cold. And just next week I will go back there for another training block in the cold, where probably most of my fellow competitors are somewhere in the warm during the European winter, so they're mostly on Canary Islands or Mallorca. But you know, I really like to do, for example, cross-country skiing. And I feel like this is such a different stimulus on my system, especially also, you know, for like the neuromuscular connection. that I really benefit from doing some different movement patterns. And I see improvements for my swim, bike, run. And I can also, focus on different things when I'm up there. And obviously I also have like a high altitude exposure, which is really good for me to have this certain blocks over the year. But I'm still kind of, also curious to see how the outcome will be. But I think it's a great example that you have to, sometimes try something new.
No, I love that, and that is very different. But exactly what you said, you have to give a different stimulus and rest the mind a little bit. And all that being said, I'm going skiing after we're done with this
Oh,
interview
nice.
today. I do that as well. And as soon as I get my skis on the snow, my heart rate's like 160, right?
It's
Like
crazy. I know.
it's super hard, and it's something that you can focus on. Like it's kind of like swimming. You have to have really good technique. You have to focus on that, and it's full body. So you're getting, without the beating that running can give some of us. The way you run, it doesn't seem like you take that much of a beating. You look very light on your feet, but there's less impact, and you're
Yes.
still getting that that weight on your legs, and you can go for 3 hours where this time of year you wouldn't do anything like that, right? So like I think that's like I've seen that a lot here in Bend, just because you kind of have to, but you rarely see athletes, certainly world champions at one discipline, going and using that kind of alternate stimulus. And I think I think you're in the right as far as trying new things, and like you are a stronger athlete if you tried new things like that or different
Yeah, for
things.
sure. I mean, just think of the movement you're doing when you're skating. You engage your glutes so much,
Yeah.
where with like all the swim, bike, run movement patterns we're doing, they're just forward, never to the side. So you really engage some different muscle fibers. And this is something I feel benefits from, especially during the run part where, just my hip feels more stable because I can, also use those muscles more afterwards. And then
Right.
also because it's a full body workout, you use your poles and the skis, like you use a lot of muscle mass at the same time. That is why the heart rate spikes so easily.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
but that's also one reason why it's great for the swim. You definitely train your lat, your triceps, and obviously it's not sport specific for triathlon. So I think I would probably not do it for the whole year.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
right now, where it's more about, just getting some hours in, like base training, at least that's where I stand at the moment. I'm trying to do a very slow and good build up. So I have a really, strong foundation or also a long season, Kona, middle of October.
Yeah.
It's late and it's still a long time to go. So yeah, I just want to make sure to have like a really, really good base and a foundation, that will bring me there.
No, that's awesome. I think, very well thought. And, talking about happiness and, mentality, yes, you love the sport of triathlon, but at the end, you're talking about October, how many swim, bike, run sessions are you going to do from then? And I think I use an analogy of like you have a bucket of motivation, and all year you take out of that motivation. And this time of year, even though you have to be focused on training, doing some training where you're actually putting things back in that bucket of motivation. Like for you, you're like, oh, I get to go skiing. That's sweet. I don't get to do that all the time. And you're actually adding to that so that at the end of the year, you've got maybe a little bit more to pull from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it also comes along with a way of freedom because, with running, swimming, biking, I always have like numbers, paces, what's in my head where,
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
brain just puts them into good, bad, just like this. And for a for a cross country skiing, like I have no, I don't know what it's good or what it's bad. So I just
Right,
enjoy
right.
it. And I mean, I don't really track, like I track the workout time and my heart rate because it's important or interesting for my coach. But, I don't really judge my speed or anything. So, and I think that is really cool, especially during this time of the year where, otherwise you always have a look like, how fast am I running? And so this is definitely something I recommend people to just, also in a way you need to have the courage to try something new, and to maybe leave the normal path from swim, bike, run. Because, I know like there are so many swim, bike, run sessions coming, just as you said, like until October, I will lock in so many sessions, swim, bike, run, that during this time of the year, it's so cool to also do different stuff. I will also do, like if I'm back in the mountains, some ski mountaineering, for example.
Sure.
And I've just introduced Daniel Beckegaard, who lives in St. Moritz now, to ski mountaineering, and he is so in love with it. And that it's so cool to see, because it's a really good workout if you walk up, and then you will definitely have some fun skiing down. That is the reward. This is also what I love about mountain biking, for example. It's more playful. You get you feel a bit more freedom than maybe comparing to road cycling, or especially TT riding, where it's head down. And I also enjoy those sessions for sure, but not the whole year round. And it's just like you said, you have this bucket, and make sure that you're not putting all your motivation out at once, so it will last for a long season.
That's awesome. And if I'm being honest, I'm doing a double today. I'm also going backcountry skiing too, so you gotta do it all. Yeah. I take
Sounds like we should do a camp together.
I think maybe. I think I'll be trying to catch up most of the time, but that's awesome. And I think it's exactly what you said. Whatever that is, if it's yoga, if it's mountain biking, whatever it is, something different. You still get to focus on it, but it's giving your mind a little bit of rest as you go in. But I do want to talk about Nice, and the biggest thing I'm curious about is how the heck did you ride that climb so fast? That's I was looking at splits, and I'm kind of all over the place. I'm going different places, and I think I was one place looking at something, and then I went back and wait, she's at the front already? How'd she get to the front? That's crazy. How'd you get to the front?
It's funny because I didn't know how fast I was riding, and you obviously didn't get much. I didn't get much information from the outside during the whole bike part. So obviously it was my plan to catch up on the bike, and Philipp and I, we were sitting down beforehand, and we're trying to create different scenarios for me. Maybe how I should race when I have a really bad swim, how I should attack the bike if I have a good swim, or that I'm prepared for different scenarios. And we definitely prepared especially for the climbs, because if you look at, something like power to weight ratio, and then we also put a lot of, work went into my bike setup. So we definitely looked at the bike part very intense. So together with my partner Swiss Side and Canyon, we used also a software to look at the course profile to see where it would make sense to invest power, and where, you should trying to focus on aerodynamics, and, where it makes sense to not push so hard, but use free speed more, for example, on the descents. And this, we tried to make my bike setup as light as possible, because I knew that for 2,400 meters of climbing, this will definitely pay off. And it just also feels so much better if you shave off a little bit of weight from your bike. And I think at the end it was around 1.3 kilograms. So that's quite a lot. And I definitely felt the difference. And overall, the bike part has been a really fun project together with my partners, and especially also with my coach Philipp, to have this ideal scenario. And on the coaching side, Philipp, had the responsibility to make sure that, my performance data would also match our expectations. So I did a lot of training in St. Moritz on using those long climbs on those alpine passes, where we really trained, specific watts, for example, where, we thought if I write these watts, maybe no one can follow, or I can at least maybe hopefully catch up. But you never know, this was just like an idea we had,
Sure.
because I don't remember any course where I raced like a really good competition with those climbing meters. So there was like this big black box where I didn't know like how good are the other girls climbing, how
Right.
good are they descending. I felt like I have like a slight, sense for, maybe having seen someone doing stuff. So I felt like, okay, maybe I know who could be good, but at the end, I think none of us actually knew how we would perform on this course. And I think that was also something that was super exciting about this course, that you couldn't really tell the outcome.
Right.
But yeah, we just spent, I think in the build up, I climbed around 10,000 climbing meters every week. So I did a lot of climbing.
Wow.
And descending, obviously. We did a lot of, also using the VO2 master to really get like the metabolic data outside on the climbs. So Philipp could really see, how my body is responding. And then he came up, with a sense for, okay, I think if you ride this hard, you're able to be still efficient enough, like, this is efficient enough. So if you ride this, then you can maybe try to recover a little bit on the descents. And I think overall your energy expenditure won't be too high. So I think you can still run solid.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, the thoughts we had and the kind of game plan we were trying to prepare for. But there was still obviously some risk involved, because I definitely wrote like watts that I never wrote in an Ironman before. So I didn't really know if this would actually play out to my favor.
Yeah, and that's what seemed fun. And, if I'm being honest, I had, I don't know if you guys have this term, FOMO, fear of missing out. And by not having an opportunity to race a world championships at a course like Nice. And part of it is obviously because it's, I love descending and I like all the things that you're saying, but it's a new equation, right? And it's a new stimulus. So you're like, okay, I have to ride a lot harder, but I get this descent that is like technically rest. People call it rest. It's not really rest. It's certainly, in your head, it's not rest. But you're on the bike a lot longer than you've probably ever been before in an Ironman, right? So like there's all these different things that you get to figure out. And the cool part is nobody really knows, right? That's the scary part, but it's also the cool part. You can be the one that figures it out the best. And it seemed like you did. Did you feel like it all kind of went to plan? Did you feel like maybe you overextended yourself? I mean, it looked from the outside that it went perfectly, but we don't know because we're on the outside.
Yes, so it definitely went perfectly. So I had a good swim, and I still knew probably Kat would be one of my toughest competition, and she was, I think, more than 3 minutes ahead or 3 minutes ahead after the swim. So I knew, okay, the goal is to trying to catch up. And I think these front group, they rode the first part pretty hard, like the short punchy hills
part.
in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
Where my focus was more on really making up time on the longer climbs. And yeah, that's just what I focused on. And as soon as I started to catch up, or, I think in the beginning of the first climb, I caught Chelsea, for example. And, it was just surprising for me as well to see they tried to follow for a short time, but then they decided to let me go. And obviously that, yes, helped me to stay super motivated. And, but I still, tried to have a look at my power meter, because it was still super early in the race. Like the first long climb is very early in the race. And I think I watched the men's race long enough, or multiple times, to be honest, to get a feeling for that you will definitely need to play like a patience game, focus on energy. When I was having a look at the course for the first time, I bonked really hard, even though I had a lot of, carbs with me. I emptied them all. And I remember, the big takeaway was, oh my God, this course definitely needs more energy, more snacks, more carbs than other races. So, I just tried to focus on those things, never missing like a zip of my Gale bottle, and just, focus on hydration, and then just using like this momentum, to really ride at my potential on those climbs. The only part where I struggled a little bit was on the plateau, where I lost my rear bottle cage. Like I wanted to reach for my bottle to drink, and then all of a sudden I had the bottle with the cage in my hand. And with the zipper, like with the rule that you're not allowed to put anything in the front of your suit, I had a big problem because I couldn't put it anywhere. And I knew like the descent was coming. And I really for the descent, you want to have both hands on your base bar, right?
Of course.
Or on your bar. And on those, like on the plateau part, I had a bit of a different scenario. Like there, I really also wanted to push hard, because there it definitely makes sense to put down some power. But I couldn't really do this, because I was busy trying to figure out what I will do with the bottle and the cage holder. And I asked the referee, what can I do? And he said, try to put it in the back of your suit. And
it's hard.
This I did try, but I don't recommend it, because you would need to take both hands off the bar to trying to do this. And obviously there were some winds up there, so that wasn't a smart idea. But anyway, other than that, especially the first part of the bike went really well. Then we were the group of three, Marjolaine, Kat and I. And obviously Marjolaine is from Nice, so I thought, it's maybe cool that we are here together with her just before the long descent, because she's the local. She can just show us how to descend here. She knows every corner, and maybe it's just a cool opportunity to trying to follow and bring the heart rate down a little bit. But then she couldn't follow Kat and I, so that was definitely a big surprise. And at the end, I think we even I don't know how much time we put into her, but the descending was a lot of fun. It was a bit of a cat and mouse game with Kat, where I felt like we have slightly different strategies on, where to risk something and where to put the power down, and just how to ride the course. But at the end, we stayed together, and we came together into T2. And, on the last meters on the bike, I knew, okay, Laura, you have to get ready for a tough run.
And it was cool seeing that. I mean, obviously you guys were riding together after you had caught Kat on the climb, at the end of the climb, but it was cool seeing that felt like the battle kind of started on that descent. You both clearly had done a lot of work on your bike handling, or just being ready for that course specifically, because it was rad. It was I'm a fan of cycling too, and I was like, oh man, these laters are going crazy. But that led into T2 and that run. How cool was it? Because Kona, we talk about groups, and for you tend to do more chasing and then catching up to people. So there tends to be less, the battles that happen tend to be late, and they tend to be maybe when somebody catches another person and then somebody tries to hang on, not while both people's race is kind of going to plan and they're around each other. How cool and unique and fun was that for you to be able to have that battle with Kat?
Yeah, that was definitely a super special situation to be in, and also something I have not experienced many times before, especially not on such a big stage. And it was intense. you could see it like from the moment where I tried to, change my stuff super quick in T2, and then I lost my visor, I lost my cooling band, I lost my sunnies. Luckily, I didn't lose my nutrition and my watch. Because it was a bit hectic, we were both sitting there, and I think we both wanted to be out of transition first, so the other has to change, or just, to make a statement, like I'm feeling really good after this bike ride. And the way I felt after the bike ride was obviously a big surprise, because I did risk something on the bike, to have a good ride, to catch up and so on. And with like the bike is definitely longer, like you're out there for, I don't know, maybe like 20 minutes longer, or even half an hour longer with all these climbing meters. So I didn't really know what to expect from my legs. And then at the end, I didn't have much time to think about it, how I felt, because the pace was definitely on. I think we both wanted to show each other like, I'm still feeling really good, and you have to work hard today to, run me down. And I think we ran like 3:30s or even faster Ks in the beginning. And the thing was, like, the first 5Ks, they were having tailwind. So it felt really good. But then as soon as we turned around, we had like a really strong headwind. And there Kat started to play some tactics with me. She always wanted to run behind me. And I think, it was funny because Mark, her husband, told her, always run behind Laura, run smart and hide and so on. And obviously Philipp, my husband, told me like, Laura, don't be the one who runs in front all the time. But I was like, okay, what can I do? Then at some point, I even stopped. So we really slowed each other down, because she started to play this game with me. And then I had this inner voice telling me, maybe I need to get rid of her, like at least try, because I felt like this is costing me some additional energy right now, just, to play this
and focus
tactical
too,
game.
Probably, right?
Yeah. And then I had the idea that I need to trying to kind of slowly increase the pace to see if she can follow. And that was in the beginning of the second lap, so around kilometer 11, which obviously is pretty early in a marathon. Mm-hmm. And I knew this is a risky move because, maybe my energy won't last till the end. But obviously it was great to see that there was starting to open up a little gap. So it actually worked. So my strategy was just like to use the tailwind part to put on the pace, because the tailwind part was also the part that felt really hot. So you had no feel like a cooling down effect from the wind. And I felt like I noticed that Kat was, starting to ask for ice and showing signs of maybe heat, overheating. And that was kind of my strategy to, like trying to make use of this and just focusing 100% with my energy on my performance. And it was tough without the sunnies, because, probably, when the sun is shining and you're starting, to feel it in your eyes that it just, it costs energy also. So I couldn't hide my emotions or also the way I'm feeling. So I think looking in my face was like, you could actually just see everything, how I was feeling. Yeah.
And it's funny because I noticed that, and you were saying that, like, I saw you drop your sunglasses in transition, and I knew that would be annoying and kind of trouble for you. But once I was out on the course, I was like, this is great, because I could see everything, right? I could see when you were annoyed with Kat in that situation. And obviously nothing personal, right? Like, it's the racing, but you can tell.
No, yeah, that's just racing. Yeah.
That's it. And then maybe at the end of that second lap, I could then see that you had gone through that portion where you had to push hard and you were settled, and you were like, you could tell you were in it, right? So like, it's unfortunate for you, but really cool for us because we could see everything kind of play out in your face a little bit more.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a 4-lap course. And I actually had the thought that as I was overtaking age group athletes further on, I was thinking, who has a visor and sunny, so I could maybe ask them if I could borrow one of them. But then I was too embarrassed, and I thought like, oh no, I can't do this. So yeah, the race went on, and at some point I didn't see Kat anymore. It was just like this short moment, maybe on the turnarounds, where I saw that the gap is increasing, but I never actually saw her having a cramp or having to walk. So that was a big surprise for me afterwards when I saw some of the footage from the race, that, she had to, battle quite some difficulties. And looking back on the race footage, it's amazing how she dealt with this and still had a pretty fast run and a strong performance. So that was really cool to see, but also, good that I never really, took the foot off the gas because, I deal with some really strong competition in those races. And, those ladies, they're fighting till the end. And that was also why I was so focused, I think, until the last kilometer, even though my gap was quite big. And I knew that maybe I could even slow down if I would have to. And probably I did slow down because of fatigue and so on, but I really tried to hold it together and not think of that maybe I will win here today. And I think it was just on the last kilometer where I felt like, okay, now I'm actually seeing the finish line, and I checked my body and I felt like, okay, I won't get any cramp. At least I didn't felt like it. And from that moment on, I really got like this rush of emotions and hormones that, flooded my body. And that was definitely something I never experienced before like this. And I think that was also the moment where at the end it was good to not have a visor or sunnies because people looked into my face, and I had so many special moments that I can go back to now and remember them, having eye contact with people where I saw that, they're actually feeling with me, they're happy with me, and they also show some tears in their eyes. And there was just a really, really special and unique experience. And I'm so thankful that, I got to experience this and share it with like all those people who were at site in Nice, but then obviously also many people who were watching it. And, just to feel that people felt like I deserved to win this title and in this race, it's just a big gift.
Yeah, and I think it was a gift for us too, right? Because I think, seeing the way you handle yourself and talking about happiness and always being kind of a light person outside of the start, from the start to the finish line, obviously you still have some lightness in there, but you're focused and doing your work. But it would be hard to argue before the race that you were the best athlete that had not won a world championship at Ironman, right? And you've had these times that you speak of, fastest debut Ironman, like you've had these crazy, crazy fast times. So for us to be able to see you have that experience, and actually, as you said, actually see you have that experience was pretty special. And looking forward to maybe seeing you doing that again in Kona this year, huh?
Yeah, maybe with sunnies for the marathon, but I would definitely take them off for the last case.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at this season, it's great. There are so many great opportunities, and having had the break from Kona, I think now it's also really cool again to go back and trying to prepare for what is a very different challenge compared to Nice.
Yeah, and how cool is it, kind of back to what we were talking about earlier as far as an athlete's ascension to getting a world championship, maybe that fourth place that you got, you exercised some demons, and then obviously your third place with your confidence. But then with this current situation, how cool is it to be like, no, I want a world championship. Now I just want to win another one, and it's one that like has eluded me till now. But you have to have another level of confidence and security in your performance going into Kona this year.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, at the moment, I would say yes. It definitely changed again something. But you never know, once you get there and you've done your first sessions in the heat and you feel completely cooked, this might be a different scenario. But I think what I'm really looking forward to is to come to race in Kona wearing bib number 1. I think this is just the coolest thing ever for the World Championships. And just trying to give my best again on a different course, a different challenge. And hopefully I can enjoy it. I think this is what I am hoping most, that I don't feel too much pressure, but that I can just go there and try my best as the current world champion. Knowing that it's a very different story there, but also knowing that I have very good chances to perform very well on the island as well.
Yeah, of course you do. And we've seen you've proven that there, and kind of everything we've talked about. If you don't change, I think the crucial part, changing the training and what you guys are doing, the different stimulus is great, but don't go changing. There's a song somewhere, this don't go changing, but don't go changing that attitude and that happiness and your lightness of making sure you get all the pieces of cake as you're, all the good ones when you're in Kona and when you deserve it. Like that's the part that, has some of us rooting for you, but it's also the part that like clearly is why you're going to have longevity in the sport. And you would not have won a world championship without that. And just leaning into that, there's no doubt you can win another.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
I hope so too. And I couldn't live without the piece of cake anyway. So I hope it will also make me faster for Kona.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Laura, I can't thank you enough for, we know you've had a very, very busy schedule, well-deserved since your world championship. Can't thank you enough for sitting down and chatting with us and telling us a little bit about that journey.
Thank you so much, Matt. It was a lot of fun. And hope to see you around at some races this season. And enjoy your cross-country skiing.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Breath of fresh air talking to Laura Philipp. She's always got a great attitude and pretty cool to be able to take a look inside that journey to that world championship and, kind of how she's preparing maybe to defend that title, but also a little insight and kind of what went down that race day. Awesome stuff. Can't wait to watch her and the rest of the women race in Kona. But we've got a big 2025 season with Ironman Pro Series coming before that. I'm really excited as we aren't too far away from our first races. But to stay across the latest Ironman and Ironman Pro Series news, follow Ironman Try on Instagram and check out proseries.ironman.com for standings, athlete bios, episodes of A Fighting Chance, replays of the races, and more. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, Maurten, the official sports performance nutrition partner of the Ironman Global Series, and all Ironman athletes have access to Maurten hydrogels and solids on course in 2025. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you're sitting on the trainer, you can also watch the podcast as a video on our Ironman Triathlon YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us on the Ironman Insider podcast presented by Maurten, and be sure to keep an eye on this space for more great conversations with some of our best athletes into the 2025 season. I'm Matt Lieto, and thank you so much for listening in.